evening, everybody, and welcome to race number 7 of the Fuel RaceTrackDesigns IndyCar series. It's the last stint of our road course stops, the trifecta, if you will. We were at Road Atlanta 3 weeks ago, Mid-Ohio last week, and we cap it off here today for the Cheesy Boy Grand Prix at Road America. Seth Cole alongside of Sam Dyer. And Sam, we kind of said before we came on the air here, this may be the easiest of the 3 road courses these drivers are going to experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even... Yes, there are some points on this track where you got some hard-braking zones. We're going to be seeing a lot of passes there, but this is probably one of the easier ones. It's not a huge elevation change, and these corners are not as ridiculously quick or narrow as some of the other courses I've been to.
14 corners. The track's just a tick over 4 miles in length and 40 laps to be run here this evening. The fuel window, we were kind of looking at it based off of the information we've been given, and right now it's kind of looking like it may just come down to who's got the best track position.
Yeah, the fuel window is going to be 12 to 14 laps, so people can turn this into a 2-stop or a 3-stop race. It matters on how risky you feel like pushing your fuel and your tires.
Ellie Thompson on the pole position for this one. Thompson's been close so many times at winning at the road courses. Closest one really that he was at was back at Road Atlanta when he almost was able to run down Nicholas Johnston for the win. But starting out in front, how do you like his chances to maybe get his first W of the season?
I mean, based off his practice and qualifying time, he has the fastest car here, but we've said that about other tracks where he's had the fastest car but just had issues within the first couple of laps. I think Nicholas Johnston, though, is still a car to watch out for, as he's won the last 2 road courses and is trying to get a 3rd one.
Not only that, but he's been able to extend his points lead with those back-to-back victories, make that 40 points over Andrew Wood coming into this race. And with starting out on the outside of the front row there, good starting track position again this week. And we'll see if he's going to try and go out there and pick up the win, or if he's going to big picture race and kind of look towards the end of the season to get that championship.
I mean, Andrew Wood is someone who had a very good qualifying today, starting 3rd. So he's a car that could be challenging up front. Just based off of the times, though, I've got to say, Riley Thompson, if he can keep a clean race, I think this is in the bag for him to win this thing.
I think that I said this before we came on the air. I think for Thompson, he needed to get the pole here today, because back at Road Atlanta, as well as last week at Mid-Ohio, he qualified inside the top 5, but he was in traffic, and that's where he would run to his early issues and spend the rest of the race trying to come back. And he finished really well with a 2nd place run back at Road Atlanta. He battled back as best he could last week at Mid-Ohio, but was off pit sequence, so didn't really finish up where maybe that car should have been. So with him starting out in front, having clean racetrack, and maybe if he can kind of keep Nicholas Johnston at bay, just hit his marks, maybe today will be the day that 56 will end up in victory lane. Take a look here at the starting grid, and there were a couple of guys we were surprised as well that had some good qualifying efforts and starting up here inside the top 10.
Yeah, Liam Quinn in 4th. I mean, he is someone that we always talk about with fuel strategy and a car to watch out for. He's been doing that all season long. He had a great practice run. Jason Brophy had an amazing run in 5th. And Conan Evan in 6th place. I think that's the big shocker for us.
Be fun to watch the 0-2 of Matt Hollabaugh. He was fast in practice, but did not get the qualifying effort he was looking for. Wrecked it in qualifying, and will be working his way through traffic from the rear to the front. So we'll see how long it takes for him to cut his way up there into the top 5. As we mentioned, 40 laps of racing, so these drivers are definitely looking at a 2 pit stop race. And with that being said, it kind of with the 12 to 14 laps gives these drivers a little bit of a window to maybe short pit on the other drivers that they're racing.
Yeah, I mean, you can try to short pit on like lap 13, I would say, but if you pit on lap 12, you're going to have to turn this into a 3 pit stop race. You got to push it to 14 if you want to make sure you're going to be making it to the green on only 2 stops. So you got a little bit of options here and there to weigh out.
As well, these drivers utilizing quite a number of these straightaways will probably be using their push to pass. As we look inside of pole sitter Riley Thompson, you can see they have 10 push to passes to be able to utilize during the course of this 40 lap race. Be interesting to see Kind of like what we looked at last week at Mid-Ohio, who saves them and who uses them up early on in this race.
Yeah, I mean, last week we saw a lot of drivers that were in the middle of the pack using it up a lot, while most of the cars up front weren't utilizing it to its full potential because they were just running laps, trying to just stay where they were at, and they weren't pushing the cars as hard as they needed to.
Most of the road courses we've gone to, you can see there that if there's a little bit of runoff, it's a sand trap. You got steel guardrails, tire barriers, concrete barriers all around. So if somebody does make a mistake, if they go far enough off course, there's going to be some unforgiving material making contact with their race car.
And I think something we have to really worry about is there a corner here that is going to be the death corner? It seems like every single time that we're at a road course, there's a corner. So we're going to have to wait and see what corner that is for these drivers.
They got a lot of different names for some of these corners here. They got Thunder Valley, Canada Corner, the Kink, the Bend, Kettle Bottoms. I mean, I don't know how they come up with some of these names, but maybe one of them will be the trouble spot for these drivers here today. And of course, we'll try and keep you abreast of anything that takes place during the course of this road course event. Of course, with it being a road course, you'll normally have local yellows. The likelihood of a full course yellow, slim to none. But if trouble breaks out, we'll break in and try and show you what happened. But obviously for Riley Thompson, the goal is clear. 40 circuits, no mistakes.
I think a couple cars for us to watch out for. It's going to be Matt Hollabaugh coming through the pack. Also, it's going to be Byron Daly, who has been looking very quick at all these road courses. Not the best qualifying laps for him, but he has a very fast machine.
Aaron Daly, second place last week at Mid-Ohio, and then third 3 weeks ago at Road Atlanta. So his road course numbers have been awfully good. And we'll see if he can get up there into the podium here today as the pace car finally peels off. A very unusual front straightaway. They climb up the hill to get to it, but we're getting ready to go green at Road America.
Riley Thompson with a fantastic start, able to gap Johnston by at least a car, now 2 car lengths, as they are now going towards turn number 1.
Johnston kind of take a defensive move down to the inside, make sure nobody was going to try and get to his inside. Andrew Wood's going to move into third. They were side by side for fourth, but Quim took the spot. Now they're side by side back there. A lot of guys, Brophy, Evans, Byron Daly, and Kite Bommerspach all in this group.
Conan Evans was trying to get over Brophy, but just wasn't able to commit that pass as they're all lining up now.
A car that's looped it around there in turn 1. That's the 55 of Hugo Galez. No caution. And Hugo, actually, if I recall correctly, qualified up there inside the top 10. I think he started either 6th or 7th in this race, so that's a lot of positions lost on the very first lap.
Yeah, you just don't want to see that to happen, as he was starting up front, and he was starting actually in 15th, looped it, and he's had issues at some other courses before. You just don't like to see that, but it seems to be always one caution or one car that spins it on the first lap.
Already had a lead change. Nicholas Johnston's gotten around Riley Thompson for the race lead, so Thompson looks like he won't even lead the first lap as the pole sitter. Look back here, Cohen Evans, Kite Bommerspach, they're in a pretty good battle. Rodrigo Munoz waiting to see what happens here. They finally settled that out. Got a lot of drivers that are willing to race side by side early on in this thing, and I guess that maybe is just due to the fact that it's the most bunched up they're going to be this entire race. Things are going to get spread out as we get into a long green flag run.
Yeah, you're trying to get as many positions as you can here at this restart. You don't want to let the car in front of you just sneak by ahead. You want to stay on them, make as many passes as you can, because you know things are going to spread out real quick.
Back looking at Hugo Galez, his spin off of turn 1. So I would have loved to have known how it was that Thompson lost the lead. If he messed up a corner, if this might be some strategy on his part, letting the 28 get out ahead, maybe try and size up what his car is like in relation to the 28.
They're still racing, a car that's made a lot of big moves and has been moving up. That's going to be Byron Daly and also Danny Roberts. Both of them have already climbed 3 positions.
Hollabaugh has also moved up to 11th, trying to knock on the door for the top 10 as he started this race way in the back. Looks like Hugo Galez has actually brought his car back behind the wall. Tough break there for a guy that came into this race 11th in the points. He hasn't exactly been a guy that we've talked a lot about here in the road course races, but he's been up there consistently in the top 10 the last couple of races.
Yeah, it usually it's just been survival, and he's been doing a decent job of maybe having an issue here or there, but just surviving to the end to be able to finish the race. But it looks like today is just not that day.
Riley Thompson has not allowed Nicholas Johnston to get ahead of him. So if it was a mistake that he made, we definitely know he's got a car strong enough to hang with Nicholas Johnston. And it's just about not making mistakes for that 56, because he's proved the last two races that he's got a car that's just as good, if not maybe a little bit better than the 28. He just has not had track position on his side, and he might make a move here. He's looking hungry for the lead.
It's track position and also it's consistency from Johnston. He's consistently been staying up front, running fast laps, and not making the mistakes that usual drivers have been making.
Right there, that heavy braking zone to the right, that is Canada corner, and I kind of wondered if that might be our trouble zone, especially as we get later on into a run, because as these drivers have the tires start to wear down just a little bit, they may lose a little bit of front grip, and you're going to have to brake earlier going into that corner, like 10, 15 laps in than you would in these first 5 laps.
Looking back, Matt Harley had some issues coming off of the corner. A couple cars are coming into the pits that are just getting some stuff looked at, as Will Roberts is pulling it into the pits.
Yeah, Will Roberts in the 39. I don't see any visible damage on that machine, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he may not have something underneath the car that he doesn't like. Looks like actually Hugo Galaz has returned back. Maybe he had some connection issues or something, but I think he might actually still be on the lead lap too, but he is all the way back in 18th place. So if he's going to have a shot at another top 10 finish, he's probably going to need a caution to come out.
Up front, Riley Thompson still not able to get by the 28 machine, but is still right on the back bumper, just waiting to make the move.
You know what I'm noticing here, and I don't know if it's attributed to the track or the setup, or or maybe just the fact that drivers now, with having gone to back-to-back road courses, they're kind of getting it into their system. But this isn't a runaway. I remember in those other 2 races, it was really a runaway by a certain driver, whoever it may be, leading the race. You got about 5, 6 cars that are up here, within the same camera shot. And if you look at it in terms of interval, 2.5 seconds, that's not exactly a long distance at a road course. So pretty impressive that nobody's really been able to step out away from the rest of the field right at the moment.
Yeah, and honestly, this is just helping out for Byron Daly, who's trying to move his way up and get back up there with the top leaders just because of his poor qualifying. And this is also helping Halaba if he can start moving up and through the pack. It's just helping these guys. If they're able to stay with the leader, when you're making moves, you still have a chance to get up there, as Quinn is starting to make a move on Wood, just not able to make the pass.
Might be able to make a move right there as Andrew Wood ran a little bit wide, got onto the rumble strips just a tad. Nope, instead going to pull away, and that opens the door for Byron Daly to challenge Liam Quinn for the 4th position. And another guy that's actually picking up some spots here is Danny Roberts in that 41, and Roberts had a good run going last week at Mid-Ohio before meeting some issues late.
Yeah, I mean, he was battling up there up front. If he had the right strategy, I think he could have gotten close to getting almost winning that race last week. It was close. It was all about fuel strategy. Nicholas Johnson was one that won it, but Roberts was up there in the top 3 for the end of that race.
He finished 3rd. He was off pit sequence from everybody else, and that kind of helped him to be able to get up there when drivers couldn't make it on fuel in the closing stages. But you also look at him coming into this race as far as points are concerned. He picked up 2 spots in the standings last week. He's 7th in the points. Yes, he's 64 points back, but we got to remember, we're currently sitting at race number 7. There are 15 races left in this in this full schedule, so we're not even halfway through the season. There's still a lot of time for some of these guys to recover and gain points.
Yeah, I mean, Nicholas Johnson's been Mr. Consistent so far this season, but there's still a lot of chances for people to come back.
For 3rd continues to kind of heat up there. Liam Quinn has reeled Andrew Wood back in as Johnston and Thompson have kind of figured out where they want to be right at the moment. They haven't exactly been on each other's back door. I noticed right there, I don't know what that was about. Maybe you can chime in, but Nicholas Johnston coming off the final turn on the uphill, veered the car to the right towards the pit wall. Is he trying to take away draft from Riley Thompson on the straightaway?
Yeah, he's trying to snake. If there's this front straightaway is so long that the draft is something to watch out for, as it can allow these drivers to get a nice run on the car, get a slipstream where you can possibly pass. So when you see Johnson just pulling it and trying to make sure they can cut off as much draft as he can while trying to stay up front.
Is less than 4/10 of a second right now between Nicholas Johnston and Riley Thompson. You look in terms of lap times, that last time by, Riley Thompson was maybe about 3/100ths faster, and maybe a little bit of a whiff of draft came into play with that, but both of them right now kind of running pretty similar lap times.
And both of them, like even at previous races, it seems like they just are on cruise control until the last about 10 laps, and that's when they finally kick in the afterburners, and they're running their fastest laps at the very end.
Talked about Riley Thompson almost getting Nicholas Johnston back at Road Atlanta. Of course, Johnston and Thompson got together at Laguna Seca and took themselves out of the win for that one. So these guys know each other very well when it comes to the lefts and rights at the road courses, and maybe we're going to write a new chapter in the Thompson-Johnston era here in the IndyCar series.
Looking back, it just seems like everyone that is from about 8th to 1st, they're all in a cluster, and then you fall back to 9th, not too far away from them. You got Kit Bommersbach, who's just sitting there in 9th, just waiting to make his move. I mean, seems like he's fading back a little bit from this pack.
A battle going on for 4th. It just exchanged hands. Byron Daly going by Liam Quinn. Quinn wanted the spot back, couldn't do it. I'm looking here at Andrew Wood in this 3rd position, and, you know, we've seen him be really, really good when it comes to the speedways. Of course, has that win early on in the season at Twin Ring Motegi, but, you know, the road courses the last couple of weeks have kind of been him. He finished, I believe it was 7th back at Road Atlanta. 7th last week, rather, at Mid-Ohio, and then back at Road Atlanta, he finished down in the 18th position. So, I don't know. I kind of have the feeling if Andrew Wood comes away with a 3rd place finish here today,
Quinn's going to be off the track. What happened was Daly was coming into the corner, braked way sooner than Quinn was expecting. He took it off the track, so he didn't just absolutely ruin his race. But he lost a lot of time and fell all the way back to 8th.
And lost 3 positions because of that. Was running in 5th. Brophy, Danny Roberts, and Cohen Evans were able to get around him, and now he's going to have to try and work his way back up there to where he was, as he will head into Canada corner behind Cohen Evans. A little surprised that Matt Hollabaugh has only worked his way up to 11th place, and he's actually quite a long ways back from 10th place Rodrigo Munoz.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. He's just been not having the same pace that he had during practice, and I don't know what happened to that pace, but it's just not there right now.
Hollabaugh's only made 1 start this season, and that was a win at Michigan, but definitely not quite the speed we expect to see out of him, especially with the lap times we saw him laying down in practice. I mean, we were seeing him up inside the top 3 in speeds. We thought maybe he'd be a contender for the pole. He had the issues in qualifying, so we started near the back. And right now, I don't know if this is strategy on his part, if he got off course at some point. But this is definitely not the Matt Hollabaugh we expected to see early on in this race.
Yeah, I mean, from practice to qualifying, I mean, it was a complete switch up of the top drivers except for Riley Thompson. Riley Thompson was the only one that really was consistent from being in the top, basically 8. To being up front. Nicholas Johnston was also up there in the top 5 during practice times. But those were the only 2. Everyone else seemed like they qualified outside of the top 5, if not further down. So it was different to see. It just seems like the track has changed a lot since practice, and that's why we're seeing the different places that people are running compared to where they were in practice.
Liam Quinn trying to march his way back up there. Got around Cohen Evans for 7th. Now trying to reel in Danny Roberts. That would be for 6th. Be interested to watch this next time by, because he finally makes the pass in the 17, what his lap times are in relation to the guys ahead of him, like Brophy and Roberts, guys that he was ahead of before that little incident between himself and Byron Daly. And actually, that car looks really loose right now. I mean, he was sideways all the way through that final corner, turn 14.
Can be difficult trying to hold it down. A little update, Nate Stewart is disconnected from the race. He's no longer running, so his race is done. Will Roberts, he's still running, still on the lead lap. Hugh Gallus still on the lead lap. Those guys are having some rough races. Another car that...
Oh, and Will Roberts, just as you talked about him, into the concrete wall hard.
Well, it could have been some caster curse right there with us talking about him.
That might have been off of turn 6. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not 100% familiar with the layout of Road America in terms of turn numbers. I can look at the turns they're going into and say I recognize that, but I don't know what number correlates with the corner. But I'm pretty sure that was turn 6.
As that probably is now ruined Will Roberts' day, and he will probably have to send it to the back of the wall. We were talking about how up front these cars were staying so close, and we were surprised by it. The front two are starting to gap third place.
A big reason for that is if you look in terms of the lap times. I mean, that last time by, Nicholas Johnson ran a 144.6 rather, 145.0 for Riley Thompson. But then you look at third place Andrew Wood, 145.9. I mean, he's almost a full second to a second and a half off the pace of these top two.
And then you go back to fourth, and you got Daly, who's running a 144.6, just as fast as our leaders. So Daly's running just as quick as the leaders, and he'll probably catch up to Wood and pass him here in the next couple of corners.
He's only about 2 car lengths off of him going into turn 1. They're side by side further back. That is Danny Roberts cracking the top 5, getting around Jason Brophy in the 88. The problem right now for Danny Roberts is that battle is going on over 5 seconds behind your top 2.
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to make as many moves as you can as lap traffic is now coming into play. As that is Nate Michaels, who the leaders just passed, and the rest of the field will soon pass as well.
Mentioned about Nate Stewart out of the race. That was his first start of the season. Also out, another driver that's making his first start of the season, Patrick Fogel in the 14. So they'll finish 18th and 19th. That just got lapped, also making his first start of the season. So little by little, Nicholas Johnston is opening up the gap, it seems, but he's not getting away from Riley Thompson. So if you're the 56, I mean, what are you thinking right now? Are you thinking go hard and try and reel him in, or are you thinking maybe I'll try and utilize pit road as the way to get the advantage on him?
Well, back there for third, they were starting to battle it out. But I would say that the way Riley Thompson's been running this, I think he might be saving. I think he might be trying to save as much fuel as he can to push his car as far as he can, maybe to pit around lap 14 or 15.
We got around Andrew Wood and Danny Roberts, who's been laying down some good lap times here. He ran a 144.6 last time by. He's trying to close in on Andrew Wood for the 4th position. If we drop a little bit further back, some guys that have kind of fallen back after some pretty good qualifying efforts. One of them is Cohen Evans in the 17, qualified up there. I think it was around the 5th position. He's now back in 9th.
Yeah, he lost that position to Kite Kite just a couple of laps ago. I mean, like this past lap. So really not having the best day Cohen Evans wants. I mean, yes, he's running in the top 10, but just based where he qualified, you'd think that he'd be able to push just a little bit harder, but just not having the full day that he wants. Luckily, there's still a lot of racing. Still haven't gotten to our first pit stop, so we can change it up here with the rest of this race.
Tim Quinn, our Homestead Miami winner, trying to reel in Jason Brophy. Remember, he was running 5th before he went off course, trying to avoid contact between himself and Byron Daly. Dropped back to 8th. He's picked up one of those spots since, now trying to get another of them back here from the 88 machine. And Nicholas Johnston was for a brief moment reeling Riley Thompson, that Riley Thompson for a brief moment was reeling Nicholas Johnston in. He had him down to half a second, which he does again, but he's not really closing up the gap any further than that. And I think to your point, might be saving a little bit. And you brought up the possibility of some of these guys maybe just trying to gain track position in terms of stretching the fuel maybe a little bit further than what the fuel window is, maybe to lap 15.
Yeah, that was something that we saw last week with Nicholas Johnston. That's how he won last race by a 13-second gap, was because he pushed his car to the maximum limit of fuel that wasn't even on our radar that you could push your car to. So there's chances that these drivers could be trying to, yes, they're running these extremely quick lap times compared to everyone else, but they also could be saving by just letting off a little bit here and there, more than you would think that they want to be usually.
Riding inside the cockpit here. See that arrow screen these drivers have now with Liam Quinn, and if we look at his panel there, if you look at the squares down in the bottom of the panel, the third square from the left, that yellow square, has a 6 in it. That means he's used up 4 of his push-to passes already, and we are only a quarter of the way through this race.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing to be watching out for, as Byron Daly, he's used up 3 of his push to passes. Andrew Wood has used 3. And Danny Roberts has also used 3. While up front, Nicholas Johnson's only used 1, and Riley Thompson's used 2 of their push to passes.
Nicholas Johnston's actually used 1. I wonder, maybe he might have gotten around Riley Thompson on that first lap, maybe using a push to pass. That might be when he used that 1, but I don't know.
I would imagine so. I mean, you usually, when you're using these cars to try to make passes here on the straightaways or through the corners, you want to use the push to pass. Push to pass enables your engine to have an extra amount of horsepower to allow you to just get more speed. And so some of these drivers will be using it to make passes a lot easier than just not using it. As right now, Nicholas Johnson, he just uses push to pass to keep the lead going down the straightaway.
He might have done that too, realizing that Riley Thompson made a little bit of a mistake there out of the final corner, turn 14. Drove it a little bit wide, got those left sides off course just a little bit over the rumble strip. And so with him losing momentum on the front straightaway, Nicholas Johnston going to counter that and gain himself a little bit of momentum. And for those of you wondering why this race is called the Cheesy Boy Grand Prix, you may have noticed that bridge that they just went underneath, the Sargento Cheese truck. Well, that's why.
I was going to be honest, I did not know that that was the actual name of this race until you said it at the start of the race, and I was like, wow, that's it
also makes sense.
It makes so much more sense.
We're here in Elkhart, Michigan, so, Or not Michigan, Wisconsin. Wow. Yeah, Michigan's known for their cheese, folks. No, Wisconsin, man.
It does make a lot of sense. As Nicholas Johnson, this lap, has now used 2 push-to passes. He's got 7 left for this race. And right now, Riley Thompson just used it on the straightaway. So you're using it. You're seeing a lot of these drivers using it on the straightaway just to maximize their speed on these longer straightaways to try to gain on the driver in front of you.
Best battle right now. You got this little group of 3: Byron Daly, Andrew Wood, Danny Roberts. Daly got around Andrew Wood a couple of laps ago for 3rd. He hasn't really been able to pull away from the 32, and you got Danny Roberts, who's been able to reel both of them in. He's trying to see if he can pick up both 4th and 3rd place here in the next couple of laps.
Things to watch out for. This is lap 12 coming to 13. So these drivers are going to be thinking about pitting soon. So watch out for any pit stops.
33 of Mike Hurley on pit road as Andrew Wood makes a move into turn 1 on Byron Daly. They're not quite going to be side by side here. Wood's going to have to give up the spot. He had a good run on the front straightaway, but he just couldn't get alongside or get an advantage by the time they came off the first corner.
And gave Danny Roberts a fantastic chance to try to make a move on whoever didn't make the pass. And he is still right on Woods. Now he's going to be making a pass on him, diving it deep. And I think Andrew Wood noticed that and totally gave it to him on that part.
Oh, yeah. He waved the white flag there. He says, no, I'm not even going to risk trying to block you. Gives up the 4th position to Danny Roberts. And that's another of the areas that's one of those heavy braking zones. It's known as the Moraine Sweep. It's a hard, almost 90-degree left-hand turn. Probably, in my opinion, one of the heaviest braking zones of Road America.
Yeah, it's one of the tighter ones for sure.
Roberts is going to get away with 4th place. That battle that was going on amongst Daly, Roberts, and Wood, that's actually brought Jason Brophy into the picture now. He's looking to try and crack the top 5 and knock Andrew Wood back to 6th.
And then if they start battling, it's going to allow Quinn to get involved here, as he's just looming behind them.
That Canada corner has been a menace for somebody. Some tire tracks over there in the gravel pit just off the exit of that turn.
Up front, our leader, Nicholas Johnson, in the pits, and so do a couple of other machines.
Johnston's going to come in. Danny Roberts is going to come in. Byron Daly, Andrew Wood. I believe that's Jason Brophy just behind him. Kite Bommersbach as well. So that's at least 6 of our top 8 coming in.
Munoz. At Halaba, so a lot of cars coming in this time. Now, this is the window that you can be coming in, and you should make it a 2-stop race. So it's gotta be.
Riley Thompson stayed out, and you said before we came on the air about people maybe stretching it, and you said, and I know who it's going to be if there is someone that's going to do it. Well, he's running second.
Yeah, a Liam Quinn is a car that we've always seen at almost every single race try to push it in dual fuel mileage run somewhere. And I'm not even surprised that he's doing it. I'm surprised that Riley Thompson's out there trying to push it, but I think he saw Nicholas Johnson make it work last week, and he's trying to make it work this week.
And Quinn almost got it done at Michigan on fuel strategy, was 10 laps short. He was successful on fuel strategy at Homestead, Miami. And he's a guy, based off of all of that strategy, he's third in the points coming into this race. He currently sits 41 points out of the points lead, but it's been a very consistent year. A lot of gutsy calls, and they've all paid off. We're going to have to see here the difference between Riley Thompson and Nicholas Johnston when the both of them finally complete their pit stops. The gap when they both, before Johnston came to pit road, was somewhere in the vicinity of a little under a second, somewhere kind of looming around 9/10 as Thompson comes to pit road this lap.
Speaking of gaps, I got to say the gap that Byron Daly got on Danny Roberts is massive compared when they came into the pits.
Quinn's going to pit as well. Here's Roberts in the 41. Nicholas Johnston's already completed his stop. He's just now heading through, I believe that is down towards Canada corner. Oh no, it's actually coming out of the final corner. As Riley Thompson still sits on pit road and Johnston's about to cross the start-finish line. So I think that the advantage right now could be to the 28. Here they both come. One coming off pit road, one coming on the racetrack into turn one. They're going to be side by side. Whoa!
And Johnston's going to be able to get it, but it was close.
That reminded me a little bit of the battle we had off pit road between, I think it was Nicholas Johnston and Mitch Welker at Laguna Seca.
Now, there is something to watch out for with this. Now, the fact that Riley Thompson came in a lap later, then if he does that again, he will feel very confident to be able to push his car as hard as he needs. While for Nicholas Johnston, on the other hand, he's got to be a little bit careful if he pits in the same sequence that he just did. He's going to have to probably save at least one lap.
I hear these guys all the time saying, you know, the less amount of fuel you take, the lighter the car is, the faster it is. So projected if Nicholas Johnston can only go up to what would be lap 28, and Riley Thompson can go to lap 30. I mean, that's about 2 laps difference. Would that 2 laps less of fuel in the tank of the 56, would that give him any kind of an advantage, do you think, speed-wise, or does it really not? Is it so minute it's really not going to matter?
I mean, it's going to give an advantage more so of the fact that he can feel confident of pushing his car as hard as he needs to. He doesn't have to really worry about if he pits on lap 30, he's good to the go. I mean, both these machines should be good to the go after these pit stops, but it's going to be closer on the fact that Nicholas Johnson might have to feel like he needs to save just a little bit here or there to make sure that he is completely good.
It may not be an advantage of weight, it may be more an advantage of time, because it's going to take you a lot longer to put 12 laps worth of fuel into a car than it is 10 laps.
That it is. That's something else to watch out for.
Danny Roberts has now moved his way up into the 3rd position. The biggest loser on all of those pit stops, you mentioned it, Byron Daly. He's all the way back to 9th place now, and this is a guy that was around the 3rd position when the pit stops began. So I don't know what happened on that pit stop, but whatever it was, it did not pan out for him at all.
No, it didn't. I'm going back to rewatch what happened. It could be that it came in too quick, or there was another penalty that made him have to stay.
drivers, we mentioned about the fact that the start-finish line is up a hill. Well, so too is the entrance to pit road. So it may be very difficult going uphill to try and gauge what your car's deacceleration is to be able to get down to that pit speed. And to your point, that might be what got Byron Daly and caused him to lose so many spots. Andrew Wood is now at 4th. Jason Brophy has moved up to 5th. And don't forget that with Riley Thompson staying out that extra lap, same can be said for Liam Quinn. He cycles around into the 6th position. So we'll have to wait and see. You know, obviously we're expecting this thing to continue to go green all the way to the end. Be interesting to see how the strategy works out for Thompson and Quinn, the only two drivers that decided to go a little bit off the pit sequence.
Yeah, rewatching that Byron Daly pit stop, it just looked like he came in too quick, had to stay for a little bit of a penalty time, and then he was able to take off. So he lost time there, a lot of time. He has the pace to possibly catch up and get back to the top 5. I mean, get up with the top 5, but it's going to be a lot of work.
And in terms of his lap times, and the only drivers ahead of him that ran lap times faster than he did the last time around are 1st and 2nd.
Honestly, he was running just as fast as those guys. Is up front. There's lap traffic that's holding up the leaders, and that almost caused our front two to collide into one another.
Boy, did it ever. I believe that might have been the 33 of Mike Hurley, and they had to kind of make their way around him in one of the more difficult corners there in turn 1. Thompson takes a peek going down there into turn 5, but instead I think he was just trying to maybe fake Nicholas Johnston out there perhaps, but instead tucks back in line.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like Johnston just got right up under Hurley, and there was nowhere for Thompson to really go, so they both were squealing on their brakes, trying to slow up as much as they can. Luckily, they didn't hit one another, and they're still running up front as fast as ever.
You mentioned about lap traffic. They are going to, maybe in a couple of laps, reel in another driver. That's Hugo Galez in the 55. Who had early issues, spun it off turn 1 on lap 1, then I think had some connection issues, came back. He's still on the lead lap, but you can see he is in the same camera shot as our top 2, and momentarily he will more than likely get reeled in by these race leaders. And it's not as much a question of, you know, what's going to happen when they catch him, because we've seen here this entire season when a slower machine is ahead of the leaders, they try and find a safe place to be able to get out of the way. They don't really race it up with the race leaders to stay on the lead lap. The question, though, is where? Where do they encounter them? Because we saw before they encountered that one car there of Hurley in turn 1. So if they catch the 55 in a bad corner, that could be some issues that these leaders have to think about.
Yeah, like you're saying, there's a lot of respect with these drivers. They usually are getting out of the way, and you love to see that. And we've seen that earlier in the race when we were seeing cars just dump it off into the grass to make sure that they weren't affecting any of their races. So just respect overall for everyone out here in the field.
These two continue to race. They're going to go side by side. Thompson got a good run. He might be using a push to pass here, actually, as it looked like he gained a lot more speed on the straightaway. And he's going to utilize turn 5 to take the race lead. So now, really, if we think about it in green flag conditions, it's the first time that he has passed Thompson for the lead after starting on the pole. We're not going to count the lap he led during the cycle of pit stops because Johnston gave up the lead there. But now the question is, what can the 56 do now that he has the top position?
No, it's crazy because I went back. He did not use a push to pass. That was just how fast the draft is here once you're in the right slipstream.
I mean, visually, it looked like he was going another 5 miles per hour faster than the 28, so I thought it was a push to pass. But that's another thing, too, if you look at Riley Thompson that we saw the last 2 road course races, is he was a guy that really knew how to utilize the draft on the limited straightaways we have on these road courses.
Yeah, we've seen him battle his way through the pack and figuring out those times to really figure out the draft at other courses. And here it always seems like he's just waiting for his time to pounce, as he was just waiting for the right place, the right time, being close enough to finally utilize the draft to make his pass. As we're have to wait to see if either one of these drivers is going to use push pass to try to make momentum up the hill.
Do you think this is a problem for Nicholas Johnston now? Because all the scenarios we kind of put together after when they made their green flag pit stop for the first time, we kind of were given the edge to Riley Thompson. Now that he's out in front, Nicholas Johnston's a little bit behind. We know that he's going to have to fill up with maybe another 2 laps more of fuel than Riley Thompson. We know he's probably going to have to come to pit road a lap sooner than Riley Thompson. So is there anything that Nicholas Johnston might have to do to change up his strategy. Now he's running in second.
I mean, save fuel and try to push it as far as you can on this stint is the best option you have right now. You lost the lead, and now just hold back, as right now Riley Thompson just used 2 push passes in those past 2 previous straightaways, trying to pull as much as he can on Nicholas Johnston.
Let them get around Hugo Galez, no issue. And I think, too, if you're Nicholas Johnston, you've got those 2 victories back-to-back races. So right now, you'd love to pick up 3 in a row, but you kind of have to look at the big picture, too, because you're leading the point standings. The guy that is ahead of you right now is 5th in the standings, 46 points back. So even though he is going to probably gain some points on you during the course of the day if he takes the win, you're finishing 2nd, so he's not going to gain that many, and you're going to continue to maybe pad your points lead.
As you're still ahead of Andrew Wood, but if you go back to 3rd place, they got 3 clusters of cars just on top of one another, of Danny Roberts, Andrew Wood, and also Liam Quinn.
Quinn actually got around Jason Brophy a couple of laps ago, and that's another guy that's on the opposite sequence of everybody else, along with Riley Thompson. So if he can get up here and maybe pass the 41 and the 32, have himself up there in 3rd, I'm not necessarily saying that he's going to be able to cut down the 8-second gap that 1st and 2nd have been able to build for themselves, but it could definitely put him in position for a podium finish today.
Yeah, I mean, getting in front of Andrew Wood allows him to catch up to 2nd place in points, so those are things to watch out for. As Danny Roberts trying to make a move here on Andrew Wood, side-by-side action, and gets it done around turn number 1. But now they've got a lap car in front of them.
That was nicely done. That outside line has been the preferred line going into turn number 1. Drivers that have tried to move to the inside to make a pass have had to give up the spots. As looks like they're all going to maybe get around Mike Hurley here. They're coming down to that turn 5, so hopefully he's going to be out of the way before they have to brake. Wood's going to clear him, and now Brophy's going to have to do the same.
And Quinn was able to get by Woods after Woods was passed by Roberts, so lost a lot of momentum off turn 1, allowed Quinn to get by, and now Quinn's got his eye set on Danny Roberts.
And he's putting down some good lap times, too. That last time around, he ran in the 144s, the only other driver to do it outside of our top 2. I'm looking at lap times, too. Fastest lap of the race just last time by, put down by Riley Thompson. 690 for the 56 car.
Yeah, but he used 3 push-to-passes that lap, just trying to gap himself from Nicholas Johnston. So that's where all that speed came from for that lap. You got to question, will he have enough push-to-pass at the end to keep himself in front of that 28 machine?
There, Johnston still has 7. To your point, Thompson only 4. And we are just now only hitting the halfway point of this race. So still a long ways to go. And when it comes down to crunch time, you may want to have those push-to-passes in your back pocket.
Things for these drivers to watch out for is, yes, you have to stay consistent and running clean laps out here when you're running these road courses. But like we saw Byron Daly have issues, you got to stay clean when you're coming into the pits. This next stop is very important for these drivers.
Absolutely. It's what we term the money stop. It's really the stop that's going to make or break your race. And I like what I'm seeing here out of Liam Quinn because, we know he's probably not going to be able to have any kind of strategy to take this victory. But in these type of races, you kind of have to know your competition, size them up, and figure out where you fit into the scheme of things. And so for Liam Quinn, I think right now he's kind of realizing, I'm better than Danny Roberts. I can get up there to 3rd place and hold on to that spot. Come away with a 3rd place run because that's about where I'm going to finish unless the top 2 have some kind of an incident.
I mean, you got to give credit to Danny Roberts. He started 10th, worked his way all the way up to 3rd, and that's where he's at right now. Great run on his part as we're past the halfway marker.
Incredible, too, because these drivers, they're running a Road Atlanta setup here at Road America, and we're seeing them make these moves, side to side, jerking the wheel left and right, and still having the car underneath them. A lot of drivers said that this is probably the most downforce they've had at a road course this entire season.
Yeah, they were trying to maximize it to make sure that these cars were stayed on the ground, and drivers were able to run and stay clean. As most of the past road course races, we've seen a lot of machines have issues and losing it off of touching the rumble strips and not having the downforce that they've needed. So it's good to see that these drivers have a setup that they enjoy and are able to run as well as they are.
This looks like Nicholas Johnston making a little bit of a charge maybe for the race lead. Closed it up to about a car length between himself and Riley Thompson. Now kind of backs off a little as they go into turn 1. Sure, but Thompson might be a little bit better in the first half of the course, and Johnston might be better in the second half.
Well, I'm just surprised with how much push to pass we saw Thompson use to lay down that extremely quick lap time of a below 144, and how close they are now. I mean, this is the power of the draft. I think that's why we saw Riley Thompson using those push to passes, trying to get so far away that we couldn't see Nicholas use all of this draft to stay with our leader, but it just didn't work out that time.
How frustrating has that got to be for Riley Thompson? Because obviously his goal was to, as you said, get out of draft range, just look around, out the windshield, hit his marks. Now he's having to look back in his rearview mirror again and kind of see what the 28's doing, especially if he gets close enough to draft up to his back bumper.
It's got to be pretty frustrating, but you also have to know that you're on a different fuel strategy. You're in front of the leader. You're where you want to be. I mean, when pit stops happened last time, you were in second. You had a good pit stop, and you almost came out in front of the leader. So you just got to make sure you hit your marks, stay in front of Nicholas Johnston, and you're having a great place to set up yourself to be up front after this next pit stop.
These two continue to race each other here for the race lead. The best battle, the fun battle's been going on back here is where you've got this group. Well, it was of 4. And now it's a 3 as something's happened to Danny Roberts in the 41. He dropped all the way back to 8th. He was up there with Quinn Wood and Brophy, and I don't know if he spun coming out of a corner or overdrove a corner, but he lost a lot of positions.
Yeah, he got onto the rumble strips, touched some grass a couple of turns ago, and spun it around, lost a ton of time, and now is being challenged by Byron Daly.
Really trying to bounce back after what we can only assume was a pit road penalty. Right now in the 9th position. A guy that we've been not talked about, but he's kind of been quiet up there, Kite Bommersbach. I mean, he was good back at Road Atlanta. He was good last week at Mid-Ohio, was very quiet, but came away with solid finishes, and because of that, he comes into this race 4th in points.
Yeah, I mean, he's just running there. That's what he's been doing all season long, just surviving most of the race, and then by the end, he's in the top 5, and sometimes just even in the top 3. So he's just slowly making his way up front, and he's not laying down the fastest laps. He's about 5 seconds away from the next car in front of him, so he's not really pushing it, but he's still just running clean laps as he's got Cohen Evans right on his tail.
4th back at Road Atlanta and 6th at Mid-Ohio. Cohen Evans wants that 6th position right now, as you mentioned, and he's going to make a move here to driver's right, try and swing around, and not quite going to be able to do it as they'll head down here into a right-hander. That gives the advantage to the 17, and he'll take the position away.
Getting it done on the straightaway. The power of the draft did not use a push pass there by Cohen Evans.
While the gap still remains a little bit, it kind of fluctuates to about 0.2 to 3.5 between Thompson and Johnston. Johnson closes it up really, really close on these straightaways, loses a little bit of time on the turns, maybe trying to back up his corner a little bit sooner than Riley Thompson so he can get back to the throttle on exit quicker. He's going to make the move down here into 5.
Able to get
wide,
it done.
gave him the spot.
I mean, that's what Nicholas Johnston needed. He needed to make that pass, get in front of Riley Thompson. And basically, with that pass, it kind of feels like all those pushed passes were a waste because Nicholas Johnston still has not used a single one on this stint of green light flag pit stops.
Riley Thompson, you just basically have to try and keep the 28 in close proximity because, as we said, as far as pit stops are going to be, he's going to be coming to pit road a lap later. But, I mean, the two of them, they were side by side going into one on the racetrack, one coming off pit road the last time they made pit stops. So we could be seeing a little deja vu after their second and potentially final round of pit stops, which should be coming up somewhere here in the next 4 to 6 laps.
I was watching back for the battle for 4th. You got Andrew Wood and Jason Brophy. Andrew Wood almost lost it coming out of turn number 5, but it was able to keep it. And now you got Brophy right on his tail.
Wood's been up inside the top 5 all day long. That's the good news. Oh my goodness. I don't know if that was a camera view for me, but it looked like that car had all 4 tires off the racing surface when he hit a rumble strip.
I think it might have been a camera view, but these rumble strips have been dangerous. We've seen that all season long, so it's something to be aware of. That is one of the scarier moments to see.
Some Brophy there in the 88 machine. He's 15th in points coming into this race. I'm trying to remember which race it was. It might have been Motegi, but I want to say it was Michigan, where he was leading on the final lap and got hooked off turn 2 on that final lap. Almost picked up a win there, but a good run right now, currently in that top 5 and trying to get Andrew Wood for 4th place. Nicholas Johnston, though, we saw the gap between himself and Thompson when Thompson was leading somewhere between 2 to 3 tenths. And Johnston's now been able to open it up 8 tenths between himself and Thompson. And to your point, Thompson is at a deficit in terms of push to passes that are left.
You got to wonder if, Riley Thompson maybe pushed his tires too much and that's why he's fading back, or if he's trying to save fuel again. It's hard to tell, but he is fading and losing time on the leader.
He really messed up a couple of the corners back there. The gap has now grown to 1.2 seconds. And let's not forget, as we're closing in on when Johnston might be making his final pit stop, the gap between the two of them when the pit stop cycles began was 9 tenths. And the two of them were side by side heading into turn 1 when the 56 finished up his pit stop and came off of pit road. If he doesn't close it up to about 9 tenths this time, you got to think that Nicholas Johnston's probably going to win the battle of the green flag pit stop cycles.
Car that had an issue early on in this lap, it's got to be Jason Brophy, as he's fallen back and now has Cohen Evans right on his tail, as he lost over about 5 to 6 seconds just because he spun out.
When Evans, Brophy gets off course again. They're in 14. That's going to lose him more momentum as Evans starts to close in. Cohen Evans dropped back to 9th after a good qualifying effort. Looks like the track has finally come to him, and he's trying to crack the top 5 now. He's going to make the move to the inside going into turn 1. Nobody's really been able to complete a pass there on the inside line going to the first corner, and he thinks better of it.
And then also who caught up to this group, it's going to be Danny Roberts, and also it's going to be Byron Daly, who both of them have caught up to the one machine.
5 cars all there. You could really throw a blanket over. They're all only separated by about 6 tenths. As you see them all nose to tail there, Brophy, Evans, all breaking hard into turn 5. Kite Bommersbach, Danny Roberts, and Byron Daly. That is 5th back through 9th right now that are all battling each other.
Brophy lost it coming off of turn number 6, so it just was a rough spot for him, and now all 5 of these machines battling for position. And you got to wonder, with pit stops coming up, who will be making the pass and who's just going to be staying where they are at.
I think we may have found our trouble spot of the track, because that's at least the second car I know of that's had an issue off turn 6. Will Roberts was the first, so that may be our trouble corner for the day.
Yeah, and it's mainly just hitting that rumble strip and getting into the grass that causes them to spin out.
Brophy's been able to kind of gap himself back to this group. Cohen Evans in 6th, looks in his rearview mirror, sees the 1 of Kite Bommersbach, the 41 of Danny Roberts, the 06 of Byron Daly, and we're nearing the point when a lot of these guys actually had come to pit road. Speaking of that, here comes Evans, and here comes Danny Roberts.
Up front, there's been a lead change. There was something up with Nicholas Johnson because he had lost a lot of time, slowed up a ton in turn number 1, lost the lead pretty easily. I think he might have gone off course a little bit. That made him just slow him down just a bit. But now they're battling up front, side-by-side action.
And Evans and Danny Roberts are the only 2 that came to pit road this time. So that will start the cycle of the last round of pit stops for the day. Johnston got back around Riley Thompson again. I think we should see make that Nicholas Johnston on pit road. If not this lap, the next lap, based off the fuel window that we know.
Yeah, the guys that actually just pitted on that last lap, it's going to be risky for them. I don't know if they're going to make it. If they do, they're going to have to be running some pretty slow times, trying to save as much fuel as they can. It's going to be close for those drivers.
They made it to the completion of lap 26. So if the fuel window is indeed 14 laps the furthest they can go, they're right on the mark. Thompson's going to come to pit road. I'm sorry, not Thompson. Johnston, if I could get the right driver. And he is going to come to pit road, Will the 28. Now, if we look there, in terms of the interval between those two, when the 28 indicated he was coming to pit road, it was about 7.5 tenths separation from Johnston back to Thompson. That's a little bit closer than the two of them were when Johnson hit pit road the first time. So we'll see if this will give any type of advantage to Riley Thompson, since he's going to be able to stay out this extra lap.
And here comes, you got Brophy, Andrew Wood, Bommersbach, Daly, Cohen Evans, and Danny Roberts are still back, are running their laps.
Tim Quinn came to pit road this lap, and he was a driver like Riley Thompson, who was off the pit sequence. So kind of surprising he decides to come to pit road this lap rather than staying out that extra time.
Might have felt like it was just better just to come in now. Also, tires might have been a reason to come in.
He also felt that he had third place pretty well nailed down, and so why not come down when everybody else comes down and keep yourself on an even keel with them, drivers like Andrew Wood and Jason Brophy. Johnson's already completed his pit stop. The only driver that we are now waiting on, we're looking at him right now, the 56 of Riley Thompson. He is the last one to complete the cycle of pit stops, and the question is, will he be ahead or behind of Nicholas Johnston when he comes off pit road?
We're expecting him to come in around lap 30. He could be trying to stay out there for a little bit longer than that. Maybe for like a lap, but he's going to be coming in this time, which he should be good to the go.
You saw him, his car kind of wiggle there as he got on the brakes as quickly as he could to maintain pit road speed.
That was the same wiggle that I saw Byron Daly have. So gotta watch to see, when will he come out? Does he have a penalty, or is he clear to the end?
Riley Thompson has not yet made it to his pit stall. We drop back to Nicholas Johnston. Looks like he is just now making his way through turn 14. He's going to come up the hill, and I don't know if Riley Thompson's going to be able to beat him off of pit road. I think Nicholas Johnston's going to have himself a pretty sizable lead when all is said and done. Well,
no, they're coming out the same time that they did last time. Deja vu. Turn 1, side-by-side action.
This time it's going to be Riley Thompson who gets the advantage. Last time, Nicholas Johnston was able to swing around the outside of turn 1, so that little bit, that teeny tiny little bit of an advantage allowed Riley Thompson to be ahead of the 28 by the time they got into the first corner. The question now, I think, really is the push to passes. You know, when do you use them? When do you save them? Nicholas Johnston's not going to wait. Wow, drove it deep into 5. Crossover by Thompson.
Just trying to do as much work as they can. Here's the update on the push to passes. Nicholas Johnston has 2 push to passes. He was using them on that run after he pit, trying to gain as much time. Did not work. He lost time. Riley Thompson, he's got 3 push to passes. 1 more than second place. Can he keep this lead right now?
Know that Riley Thompson has really, for the most part, been reeled in last couple of times by Nicholas Johnston for the lead, and really has not been able to get back up there and repass the 28 car without the aid of some push to passes. Liam Quinn looks like he's going to nail down for the moment 3rd place. It's about 2 seconds before you get back to 4th place Andrew Wood. Jason Brophy right now runs in the 5th position. Kite Bommersbach in 6th, but he's got a challenge from Byron Daly.
Byron Daly trying to make some moves as he's going to make a move on the outside. Side by side, and he's going to get the pass done.
And Evans is now back in 8th. Danny Roberts. I almost wonder if maybe he ended up getting a pit road penalty because he was up around the 4th position. And he's now dropped back to 9th place. And right now, Rodrigo Munoz would complete your top 10. And again, last car on the lead lap, and I'm a little confused by this, but Matt Hollabaugh in that 11th spot.
Just not the day that you were expecting Hollabaugh to have, but, you know, if another car has an issue, he could be getting a top 10 finish, as he's just riding around at this point.
Right now, only 14 cars are running, 3 cars a lap down. Curtis Yancey in 12th, Hugo Gallas in 13th, and Mike Hurley currently in 14th position. Nate Michael actually just now taken his car officially out of the race. Evan Adams and Will Roberts sitting on pit road, but I don't think either one of them have plans of getting back out there in these final 10 and a couple corners laps. See, Nicholas Johnson has gotten back around Riley Thompson. And if the last 2 road course races are anything to go by, it was the last 10 laps, really, if you think about it, back at Mid-Ohio, and especially back at Road Atlanta, where Riley Thompson laid down some of his fastest laps of the race. So are we going to see that same deal again here at Road America?
It's possible, but being behind someone, you're not really going to be running faster than them to a point. So you got to be making some bold moves here. I don't know if Riley Thompson's really just getting beat by speed or just it hasn't been able to find the right moments to make the pass. It's hard to tell.
Right now, it's looked like the 2 passing zones for the most part really have been down here into turn 1, drivers trying to outbrake the other, and down into turn 5. I've seen a couple of drivers try and make some moves exiting out of Canada Corner in the carousel over around turns 13 and turn 11. But for the most part, it's really been a lot of drivers trying to utilize the real heavy braking zones to make passes.
Right here, it looks like we might be seeing Riley Thompson, but he drops back. He looked like he was thinking about it. He was thinking about making the pass right there, but decides to stay in line.
What is it about that corner that kind of makes you decide whether you want to make that move or not? I mean, when do you get to the point of, okay, I'm committed to make this move, or, how early do you have to decide, okay, no, I'm not going to do this?
It's kind of a gut call. Once you're close enough, within about a tenth to 2/10, you can make the pass. You could throw your car down there. There's a chance of being crossed over, like we saw when we saw these front 2 crossing back and forth. But it's more so of, hey, you got to make sure you just have the guts to throw your car down there, and make sure you're not taking out the other machine. But as long as you're a tenth closer, I think you're going to be seeing cars making that move. As just watching from the cockpit view of Riley Thompson, he's getting the draft into these heavy braking zones. It's just more of waiting until he wants to make the pass.
I know that these 2 were really close in proximity in the final laps at Road Atlanta, but I can't help but go back to Laguna Seca when the 2 of them made contact in the corner just at the top of the corkscrew. The both of them spun out. Nicholas Johnston went on to, I think, finish second in that race to Mitch Welker. Riley Thompson didn't fare quite as well, but we can't, with the way that these guys are racing each other, the way they're trying to outbrake each other into some of these heavy braking zones, we can't take out the realm of possibility. The 2 of them might make contact and spin off the racetrack. And you look back there, riding around a little more than 7 seconds back, Liam Quinn. If these 2 do get together and go off course, is that enough time for Quinn to be able to get up there and capitalize and sneak the win away from the both of them?
It really matters on how vicious the hits are and how off course these machines get. If they're off in the sand, I think Liam Quinn has a chance to get into this thing, but they're in the grass. It might not be much of a gap. I've seen 5 to 6 seconds is when you might lose time. And it matters also if they have damage on their machine, if Liam Quinn could catch up. But that's a whole bunch of what ifs. I'm expecting these guys to race clean here. As at that Laguna Seca, when they got collected, that was one of the trickiest parts of that track. And that's one of the trickier parts of any road course anywhere.
Right there for Liam Quinn. He certainly won't gain time on these guys with the push to pass because he's only got 1 left in the tank on his number 4 machine. Down into Canada Corner. Remains just about half a second, a little less than that, between Johnston and Thompson. And pretty much now it's basically you got what you got. You can't rely on pit strategy anymore. It's all about hitting your marks, trying to maybe run laps a little bit better than the guy either in front or behind you. It really comes down to the driver and the car.
We'll give credit to Liam Quinn before this lap. The last one, he was running faster than the leaders by about a half a second. So credit to Liam Quinn on that. This time around, he's running about 2/10 faster than them, so he is gaining. It's just not a lot.
Yeah, he's gaining anywhere from 1 to 2 tenths here, and he's only got 8 laps to work with about a 7.5 second gap between himself and first place. So definitely at this point in time, he's not going to be able to get up there to these guys in terms of the lap times he's running, but if he can continue to chip away just little by little, again, that's a closer interval if these two do get together. And to your point, I don't think it's going to happen either. I think these two know each other pretty well. They know, how to road course race and road course race each other clean. Just throwing out that possibility there, though, for Liam Quinn, because you never know.
Yeah, I mean, these two have been the most dominant road course racers at all of the courses. With Laguna Seca, Welker just fell into his lap that the front two cars got collided, and he had a chance to run down Nicholas Johnson during that race. And ever since then, it's been Nicholas Johnson up front, running fast, staying up front, being consistent. And Riley Thompson having the fastest car, just having bad luck of either being spun out, penalties, some type of issue. And now they're battling up here up front, trying to see who's going to win this thing, with coming to be only about 7 laps to go.
All right there, just how well the draft worked through the kettle bottoms for Riley Thompson, closing up as they approached Canada corner. Watch here again as the interval is going to decrease, and that 56 gets a little bit bigger down this front straightaway heading into turn 1. So he definitely is utilizing the draft, but it seems like he's losing a little too much in the corners. And could that be maybe because of the draft he's getting on the straightaways? It's having him carry a little too much speed, a little bit more than he would like into the entry of these corners?
Yeah, that is the one downside of the draft, is you do come in with a lot of speed, and sometimes these drivers just they don't know when their braking zones should be with as much speed as they come in with. But it seems like with Riley Thompson, it's always the exit of the corner. He's just not getting a great exit compared to Nicholas Johnson, especially on that last corner. He needs to get a better exit so that he's not losing as much time as he usually does. He'll catch up by the end of the straightaway. Instead of, if he gets a better runoff, he's able to possibly make a pass.
They got these rumble strips here off the corners to allow drivers a little bit of extra space to get some runoff and get a little bit extra speed. Riley Thompson seems like he's trying to use every bit of that. However, Nicholas Johnston doesn't look like he wants to put his tires anywhere near those rumble strips. He wants to just stay on the racing asphalt.
Yeah, that's just more of a driving preference. We've seen cars in the past where rumble strips just affect the car too much, and you'll see a car spin it around, and other drivers, they love the feel of it. They feel like they're able to maximize their car to its fullest by throwing it wider than other machines, and some drivers just like to stay and hit their marks on the course.
The hill out of 14 onto the straightaway. Right now, the gap is about 7/10 of a second from Johnston back to Thompson. It now gets cut down by a 10th, and now by another 10th, utilizing that draft. It's just a matter, to your point, of him carrying the speed through the corners, because he definitely got the straightaway speed with the draft.
Yeah. You might be wondering why we're not looking around through the rest of the field. There isn't a lot of action. This is
nothing.
the closest that we're going to see as we're coming to the end of this race.
I mean, these guys right now, first and second, they're separated by 6/10. The next best battle is actually going on back for 6th place, and that's got about 1.3 second separation. So there are no battles going on through the field. This is the tightest battle, and it's for the race win, which is why we're going to, unless something happens back there, we're going to pretty much keep it on the top 2 for the remainder of these 6 laps.
Going to take a quick update on push to passes, as Riley Thompson only has 3. As for the leader, Nicholas Johnson, he still has 2, so they haven't used any of their push to passes since we started really staying on board with these two.
To update these two as well, more than likely they will not have traffic come into play. They have about a, I would say, 37-second gap between themselves and the next car of Matt Hollabaugh. So I don't think they're going to close that gap up at all in these 6 laps. So it's really just a mano-a-mano, clean racetrack for these top 2. And we'll see who's going to be bringing home the trophy and who's going to be bringing home the steering wheel at the end of this, as they're coming to 5 laps to go.
Yeah, the leader's battling it out, but I got to say, a battle for 4th might be brewing. battle for fifth as Byron Daly is catching up to Brophy, and Brophy's making some mistakes.
Brophy just overdrove Canada, or I'm sorry, yeah, that was Canada corner that he overdrove there. As Brophy now looks in his rearview mirror, sees Byron Daly, and I think if we consider the fact that the struggles that Byron Daly had, was up there in third when the first round of pit stops began, got pegged with a speeding penalty, dropped down to ninth. This is a great comeback for him as he's trying to pop his way up here late into the top five, makes the slingshot move to the inside in turn one. Not quite going to be able to do it. Nobody's really been able to do it on that inside line turn one all day. Maybe he'll try it down in turn five.
Yeah, probably turn five is where we're going to be seeing this pass. Daly has 4 pushed passes to work with, as Brophy only has 1. So the advantage is going to the 06. As he's trying to figure out where he's going to make his move, he's going to be making it on the outside. But was it enough space? They're going to be side by side coming off the course.
We're going to take it up here into turn 6 side by side, which gives the advantage to Brophy being a left-hander. Now they're going to go into a right-hander, but Brophy is going to clear, hold off Byron Daly at least for the moment. And boy, that was a bit of a decision there for Byron Daly down to turn 5, because with Brophy being the car out in front, he got to choose which lane he wanted to take going into that heavy braking zone, and Byron Daly had to choose the opposite.
And you got those two battling side by side. And up front, you got cars battling up there. They are right on top of each other. Riley Thompson almost thought about taking it side by side.
He's definitely gotten back onto attack mode, has closed it up to about a car length. You can see Nicholas Johnston trying to do everything he can to take away draft down the straightaway, but Thompson stays right in his tire tracks. He's going to have a big run going down here into turn 1. He's going to use the outside line, which is definitely the preferred lane here in turn 1.
Going to be able to take it, but just not enough space. As you saw, Johnston coming up and clearing space for himself.
Within striking distance, will he think about trying to make a move here in turn 5? And of course, if you're Thompson, you're realizing the laps are ticking away. Every lap that goes away is one less lap you have to work with to try and take this race lead, potentially the race win, away from Nicholas Johnston. Let's see what he does. He's going to try it here in 5.
Trying to make a do crossover, and it might work here. Nicholas Johnston, Thompson side by side, coming up here through the S's.
They stay side by side here out of 6. They do. That gives the advantage back to Johnson. Ooh, a little contact perhaps there with the right front of Riley Thompson into the left rear of Nicholas Johnston.
A little update for the battle for 5th. Byron Daly able to get by Brophy. And now we're back to the action up front. As it looks like Johnston might, with that little tap, there might have been a little bit of contact there. And that could have been enough of a gap for him to keep, as they are starting to space out.
That's the thing, like what we said with that battle back there with Brophy and Daly, is that Brophy was able to choose the lane he wanted to run going into the corner. Daly had to choose the opposite line to even try and attempt to pass. And so right now for Nicholas Johnston, he can choose which lane he wants to have Thompson try and make the pass. He's forcing him to take the longer way around the corners, which in turn is having Thompson be a little bit slower on his corner exit.
And sometimes you'll try to give the advantage for one corner to set yourself up for the next, as they are still side by side. Here comes the move on the outside. Thompson might have it here as they are side by side going into turn number 1. Bumped a little bit.
Has the edge on the left side, and again, not able to make the pass complete. Boy, I almost wonder just how much of a risk Nicholas Johnston's running there, kind of moving a little bit to the left, trying to move the 56 up the track. Ooh, made a little mistake out of turn 1, but I mean, you don't want those tires to make contact with each other.
Yeah, both cars got a little bit into the grass there, which slowed them both up. But I think the advantage goes to Johnston on getting out of there cleanly, as they both haven't used the push to pass yet. Thompson still only has 3. Johnston has 2. As we're coming down to the final 3 laps, this is going to be interesting to watch. With 3 laps to go, you've got pushed passes. Are you saving them for the last lap?
If you remember back 3 weeks ago at Road Atlanta, Riley Thompson had to lay down some blistering lap times to be within about half a second of Nicholas Johnston on that final lap at Road Atlanta. Now he is within striking distance with a little less than 3 laps to go here. We'll see if he's going to be able to get a little bit of Road Atlanta revenge here today at Road America, but he's got a little bit of a gap to close up again on the 28.
Here's something I want to bring up. At the start line that time, Riley Thompson was only about 4/100ths off of the leader. He never used to push to pass. That was just the giraffe. Imagine if he used to push to pass. He doesn't even need to pass Johnston here. He can actually just stay behind, run these laps, and run on the last corner. Gets a good run off, use a push to pass. He could beat him at the line.
And I think he actually beat him at the line that last time by, didn't he? When he slingshotted off the front straightaway coming to the start-finish line. I think he just barely had the edge on Nicholas Johnston. So to your point, maybe set him up for a little bit of a photo finish here on the final lap.
Well, these battles are coming into turn one. You might be thinking otherwise as they're still side by side. And this is the closest they've been as they almost touched that time.
Interesting to see if they remain side by side out of turn one. Nope. Thompson ran a little wide, had his right sides on the rumble strip, but he's within striking distance here coming down to the heavy braking zone turn 5.
You got Johnston blocking the inside line, making Thompson use the outside. Thompson going for the outside, not able to do it, trying to do a crossover, and he's not able to really get the run nor the spacing that he needs. This is great defensive moves by Johnston.
That last time there, Johnston was able to keep his car down to the rumble strip, did not allow Thompson to do the crossover that he was able to pull off 2 laps ago. So he's kind of figured out that playbook. Now Thompson's got to figure out a new place to be able to make some moves.
With these two and how hard they're racing, if they make any accident here, Liam Quinn, yes, he's about 7 seconds back, but he can still pounce if they cause each other to wreck out of this.
Absolutely can. I mean, the last time we looked at him, he was about 7 seconds back. He's now only 5.5 seconds back, so he has cut down the advantage these top two have had on him by about 1.5 seconds, and that gets him even closer, as you said, if these two make a mistake, to maybe capitalize and steal a second win of the season away.
We are 2 laps to go, coming to the white flag once they cross the line. What type of run is Riley Thompson going to get here?
Question is, does he try and make a move here on any of these corners, or does he wait till the final turn? He's going to try and see if he can utilize the slipstream, get the draft here on the front straightaway. Doesn't look like he's close enough to make a move into turn 1 yet. Actually, he got a big run there after the start-finish line, and Johnston's going to get moved up the track a little bit.
All right, white flag, here we go. We've got Riley Thompson with 3 push-to-passes, Johnston with 2. Are they going to utilize any of them, or are they just going to race clean here at the end? To take that, Johnston's going to be using the push-pass here, trying to pull away.
Try and pull away so he doesn't have a move made on him into turn 5. Thompson right now, maybe about a car length and a half back. Now 2 car lengths, closes it up.
Thompson used 1 as well, so Johnston only has 1, while Thompson has 2.
He's now still within striking distance. Now for Thompson, it's really just about kind of maintaining where you're at behind the 28 so that you have enough time and enough space between you to be able to make a move, especially out of that final corner heading up the uphill to the start-finish line.
Now, Thompson doesn't know that Johnston still has 1 push to pass. Johnston must be saving this for that final stretch just to push it. So Thompson gets no advantage here, just only the draft.
To have maybe out of turn 11 down to turn 12 Canada corner straightaway to maybe work with to try and draft back up.
Thompson using his push pass here on this little straightaway. And Johnston used his. Johnston has used up all of his push to passes. Thompson with 1 left. He's got the advantage.
Just went through Canada corner. Here's that straightaway that I was talking about. Let's see if Thompson can close up the gap as they head down to the final few corners. Off the final turn.
Here comes Thompson. Does he have enough space? Does he have enough speed? It's going to be close. Going to come across. Johnston.
Oh,
Johnston at the line.
Thousandths is what they're officially saying. Almost pulling it off was Riley Thompson. And for the second time this season, in less than a second, Riley Thompson comes up bridesmaid to Nicholas Johnston. Johnston on a road course rampage, 3 for 3 in picking up the win.
That's huge for him with getting wins and pulling even more on Andrew Wood. These are huge points and really is just showing consistency is the key. We thought, when was Johnston going to win? And you said it last week. Who is going to beat him now?
Well, next week we go to an oval, so maybe somebody steps up and beats Nicholas Johnston, but he's just been unstoppable here these last 4 weeks at our 3 road course venues. Road Atlanta 3 weeks ago, and then last week at Mid-Ohio, and of course here today as he does his burnouts down in turn 5. And let's look at the rest of the finishing results from this one because, obviously Nicholas Johnston with the victory is going to continue to grow his points lead, but to at least somewhat keep him still within striking distance, still good consistent runs by Riley Thompson, Liam Quinn, and Andrew Wood, the top 4 in the points, finishing top 4 in today's finishing results.
Yeah, it was a great run for all of those guys. Got to say this, Nicholas Johnson and Riley Thompson both ran their fastest laps of the race on that last lap, utilizing all of their push-to-passes to help them with that.
Not a surprise there. Byron Daly, a good comeback run for him after a pit road penalty in 5th. Jason Brophy will finish 6th. Kite Bommersbach, another good run at the road course of 7th. Cohen Evans, Danny Roberts, and Rodrigo Munoz completed your top 10. We only had 11 drivers finish on the lead lap. Matt Hollabaugh was the last of those. The rest of the drivers that were running were Curtis Yancey, Hugo Galez, and Mike Hurley, and everybody else finished behind the wall. Probably the biggest one of those early issues, 2 issues actually, for Will Roberts, finished him in 17th, and that is a guy that came into this race 9th in the overall point standings, so certainly not what he wanted heading into Iowa next week.
No, it's really not, and I imagine all these guys that aren't really big fans of road courses are excited to see the oval racing coming next week. So for all those guys that just didn't have great runs so far the last 3 races, they've got to be excited for next week.
Absolutely. I mean, next week we're going to be going to, I guess it'd be considered a short track, Iowa Speedway. Some people will say it's a short track, some people won't. I guess I kind of consider it a short track.
I consider it a short track, for sure. Compared to the other speedways that we've gone to, for sure, it's a short track.
So we'll call it a short track. Boo the naysayers. Anyway, let's bring in our second place finisher from today's event, and that, of course, is Riley Thompson. Riley, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yes, sir.
Well, my goodness, what a final lap there. I mean, was there anything you could have done differently? We saw just how well you were utilizing the draft, whether it be, on the front straightaway or over there between turns 11 and 12, that straightaway there. I mean, was there anything you could have done just a little bit differently to get you those extra 43 100s?
Probably just being a little bit closer. I think in that Canada corner, I was doing pretty well compared to him, but especially in the carousel, I think I lost way too much time to him, and that helped him get ahead by a bit.
Talk about the pit road strategy. We saw that Nicholas Johnston came to pit road a lap sooner than you did, and the two of you kind of came off of pit road pretty even. You were side by side going into turn 1 after the first round of pit stops, and then you were side by side after the second cycle of pit stops. So, was there anything that kind of changed your strategy up perhaps there between pit stop 1 and pit stop 2 to see if you could get yourself a little bit more of an edge?
Yeah, it was more of trying to, I was kind of saving the whole time, but I realized that, hey, if I'm going to be close to him at all, or he's in my draft at all, I'm going to need to push, so I decided to take about an extra lap. And I think I probably could have gone away with a little bit less, but he probably would have been in my draft anyway, so I think I made the right call there.
Yeah, Riley, it just seemed like whenever you took the lead, you just saw Nicholas coming right on your back bumper and trying to pass as soon as possible. Was there any thought of trying to make the pass just a little bit sooner than on that last lap?
Yeah, a little bit, but I was thinking he'd be able to make it right back if I tried to, so.
Still a great run for you here today, a second place run. You've been close so many times here this season, but obviously we kind of get the feeling that a W is going to be happening in your future. We got a couple more road course races that we'll be going to during the course of this season. Of course, we got the speedways as well. But for the moment, we're now going to turn the microphone over to you and let you do some shout outs.
Yeah, Simsa Esports for this beautiful car made by iLiveries, Linford, Craig's Up Shop, and BaylorHost.de. So, yeah, a lot of sponsors to list off.
All right, that's Riley Thompson. Brings it home second today, but congrats on that run, and thanks for putting on a heck of a show for us here on this final lap, too.
Oh, thanks for the broadcast.
And we have our race winner on standby here. Let's get Nicholas Johnston in here. Hey, Nicholas, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yep, got you guys.
Well, we might as well just make a room for you up here or something, because this is the third straight race that we have talked to you. But, man, I mean, let's go back first 3 weeks ago. It was you and Riley Thompson, but it was a little less than 0.4 of a second that time. This time, it was 42 1,000ths at the line. What was going through your mind on that final lap?
Oh, I know Riley's one of the toughest competitors and one of the cleanest guys we have here in the Fuel Racing League. So I knew I had to defend. I couldn't just let him have the inside because I don't think I was going to be able to hold the outside. And luckily on that last lap, I was able to pull just a little bit of a gap, just enough to not have to defend as much. I had 2 push to passes remaining, and I used them both on that last lap. I figured he had more than I did because I was using it a lot during the race to either try to pull a gap before a stop or try to make sure that he didn't overcut me at some point during the race, which he did in that second stint. But he did a really great job, and we had a really great race. It's a lot of fun racing him week in, week out. He's a hell of a driver and having a good time out there, man.
We saw last week you dominated at Mid-Ohio, and it was a lot of it was attributed to the strategy of being one of the last ones to come to pit road. This week, however, you were one of the first people to come to pit road. So how is it that the strategies vary from each road course that we go to?
Well, this week Riley was the smarter one, and on that first stint, he stayed behind me and saved a bunch of fuel and was able to go that extra lap that first time, which then he was pretty much set. The way the stints worked out is he had to do 2 13-lap stints and a 14-lap stint, and the 14 was going to take some fuel saving. The 13s took minor fuel saving. I had Mitch Welker on the box this week. He was helping out with fuel numbers the entire time and keeping tabs on Riley and how things were going here and there. He did a really great job. I owe a lot to him for this race because he did a fantastic job letting me know all my fuel numbers during each stint, what targets I had to hit. And yeah, Riley was able to go longer that first stint because I was giving him the tow. The second stint, we were getting the tow off of him, so we were able to save to get that 14th lap. And then the 13 was just a little bit of fuel saving there, probably the first 2-3 laps after I got near Riley there. And then from there, it was just flat out push and see if I could hold on.
Yeah, I mean, Nick, it seemed like you kept on, whenever you saw Riley in front of you, you kept on trying to be aggressive, trying to make the pass on turn 5. It seemed like that was the corner for you to make the pass. Was it difficult anywhere else to make passes, or was it just a lot easier there?
You just get the toe off the front stretch between 1 and 2, and then all the way down that back chute. The toe is massive in these cars with the high downforce setup we have on, and I believe there was an update today actually to the IndyCar for that. So the toe is just massive, and it's really your best shot. The problem on the backstretch in the Canada corners, you have that really fast carousel, which is very aero dependent. And if you're in second or behind someone there, you end up losing a lot of that front downforce, and the gap's almost too much to make a really good overtake into there.
There's no doubt about it. You have been on a roll with these road courses back to back to back now. But next week, we're not going to road course. We're going to an oval. So how's the mentality change up now to try and keep the streak alive and make it 4 in a row?
Well, right now, I think I'm just going to try to look at the points after this week and see how we look. If the gap's significant, I might just chill out, try to get a top 5. And if I'm there, I mean, I'm not going to throw away a win if I'm there to fight for it at the end, but I'm not going to do anything stupid and throw this thing away. I'm looking for a big picture here, long game. Hopefully we can bring a championship home to Project 2.
We can give you the update right now. You've got a 47-point lead over a tie for second place between Liam Quinn and Andrew Wood. So the gap grew by 7 points from the start of tonight's race to the finish of tonight's race.
Okay, that's pretty decent. I'll take that any day.
All right. Well, obviously, this is going to give you some great momentum going into Iowa. We'll look forward to seeing if you can keep the streak alive. But for now, we're now going to hand the microphone over to you and let you do some shout-outs.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you guys for broadcasting this and doing all the work you do. You guys do a great job. Field Racing League, obviously, for putting all this on. They do a fantastic job with everything, and we have a fun time doing this every Thursday night. I got to thank Volvo for the horsepower there. We definitely need it tonight. Shell for the awesome fuel, keeping that thing going. Project 2, and a special thanks to Mitch Welker for all his help on the box tonight. He did a fantastic job, and I know he's a better racer, but if he's not going to race, I'd love to have his help.
All right, that's Nicholas Johnston. He brings it home to victory lane for the 3rd time this season. Congrats. Go enjoy your win.
Thanks, guys. You have a great night.
All right, so call off the search party. We now know where our Laguna Seca winner was. He was up on the pit box for Nick Johnston tonight. So Mitch Welker has been found. But I mean, Nicholas Johnston, the story continues. I think the record is stuck. Who's going to step up and get him next week? Do you think that gives some of these guys a little bit more of an advantage now that we're going to a speedway and we may see somebody dethrone that 28 car?
I mean, it gives them an advantage, but also the 28 machine of Nicholas Johnson's been looking good at speedways. It's not like he's got a weak spot in this whole entire schedule. He's looked good everywhere. It's just he's been at second almost at every track, and he's finally gotten the win here at road courses. So he's still a car to watch out for who could continue his streak of possibly having 4 in a row.
He was 4th at Homestead Miami Speedway. He was 6th at Michigan. And, of course, he was runner-up to Andrew Wood at Twin Ring Motegi. So, yeah, maybe not that much of an advantage, but we'll see. I mean, maybe somebody's going to utilize some fuel strategy next week at Iowa. You never know. But next week, it is going to be short track racing from the Iowa Speedway. Looking forward to that one. But a great race here tonight. I'm looking back, and I believe this was the closest finish so far of the season, 42 1,000ths at Road America. Don't know what it is, but these road courses always seem to bring about some photo finishes. It's really weird. But nonetheless, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's race. Sam, as always, thanks for joining me tonight in the broadcast booth.
Always a pleasure.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you guys next Thursday at Iowa Speedway as you've been watching another broadcast here on the